This episode of the Zelos podcast is sponsored by Perform Better. Perform Better is the leader in functional training by supplying innovative products and top-notch education to trainers, coaches, and therapists. Check out the brand new Perform Better app, designed for professionals who want to stay on top of their game. This free app features education from the world's best. You'll learn from industry leaders including Mike Boyle, Gray Cook, Sue Falzoni, Charlie Weingroff, and many more. Topics range from strength and conditioning, program design, nutrition, business, and marketing. Just go to performbetter.com. Welcome back for yet another episode of the Zealous Podcast. I'm Rocky Snyder, and I have just a treat this week. I've got one of my longest time friends, and I'll say colleagues in some way, but he's not in the fitness industry, he's in the sports industry, and he's one of those guys truly behind the scenes making things work. But we went to high school together, we went through college together, and he took the straight and narrow while I explored the bad roads of life. And so it just so turns out that we are able to reconnect here. So Joe Fitzgerald, he is the Vice President of Special Events for National Hockey League, the NHL, but his road to getting there is something you really want to hear about. Joe, welcome to Zealous.
Thanks, Rocky. It's great to be here. It's great to see you and catch up. And, it's been way too long since we've actually had to spend time together and hang out like the old times, but it's great to be.
Truly. I know we had a high school reunion coming up the last year. And of course, COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench into that. And of course this year, but someday soon. And we almost connected, because just the other weekend I was up snowboarding in Tahoe, and lo and behold, who should be up there getting the Winter Classic going? But you were right there. We were only miles apart. But I know I can only imagine what you were going through to get that weekend set up. So we'll have to do it when you're not.
I apologize that that was something we had to be sequestered in a way, to keep. We were tested every day because of this COVID and trying to keep our players and faculty safe so we can pull off an event like that.
Crazy.
It was crazy.
All right. So viewing audience, Joe and I, we grew up in Reading, Massachusetts, where two of the main thoroughfares outside of Boston intersect, maybe about a 20-minute drive into the city, one of those little suburbs. And he and I were captains on the gymnastics team way back in high school. And then we went to UMass Amherst together. And then you knew what you were doing. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. So I just procrastinated by going to the gym and working out. And who would think that it actually turned into a career? But you, meanwhile, was it sports management? What did you major in at UMass?
Well, believe it or not, I started out computer science, and that was my interest. And then I did it through my freshman year. And then partway through my sophomore year, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And I never heard about the sport management major before I got to college. I'm like, you know what? That sounds really cool. I could work in something that I love, sports, and I switched to that after doing a little bit of research, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So, what I wanted to do is really take the professional sports avenue. I mean, sports management, there's tons of things you could do, like exactly what you're doing, run your own gym or health club, or get in a minor league or professional sports, or be a college AD.
I wished at that time. Well, we all work out to where we are today because of whatever. But imagine if I had found out at that time you were doing that. Who knows? Maybe I'd still be here because, like you say, sports management is right up my alley here. But you, on the other hand, you get into sports management, and then you end up with an internship with the Red Sox. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. It's so
How did that happen?
For me, I mean. Well, I actually, as you know, I started out 5 years because I fractured my neck in high school, my senior year. Didn't know if I was going to be able to make the team my freshman year because I literally got my brace off the day before college practice started. And, as a freshman, it's hard to make the team, right? Everyone's working out all summer long. Here I am coming off an injury and all my muscles atrophied, and I was completely out of shape, and I was a pommel specialist, and there's only 12 guys that make the team, and they already had a pommel specialist, so my likelihood of making the team was slim and none, I thought. So I decided to go 5 years right away, and I was able to take one less class a semester, but able to concentrate more on my 4 classes and spend more time getting back in shape and doing what I love doing and swinging pommels. So I actually ended up getting back in shape quicker than than I thought I was going to. And luckily our team was not that great in Pommel Horse, and I actually made the team my first 4 years. So my 5th year, I was like, oh, I'm done with gymnastics. My eligibility's done. It's time to start thinking about a career. And I knew I wanted to go pro sports, and I wanted to do an internship. So I wanted to do an internship my last semester in college. And my thought process there was, if something came up, I was immediately available. I didn't have to go back to school and wait around, and then I get done school and that job's no longer available. So that insightful thinking actually helped me out. So I used that fall semester of my 5th year to do an independent study. I made and researched a media guide / program for the men's and women's gymnastics team, researched career stats, and it became like a recruiting tool too that the coaches could use to hand out. So I sold advertising, helped pay for the printing. And that was actually a benefit to me too, because I could take that program, a guide that I did, and bring it on interviews for my internships and say, this is what I've done. And I had something, real life experience that I could give to the Red Sox or the Celtics, who I also applied and got accepted for an internship there.
I didn't hear about that. You got accepted to the Celtics?
Yeah, I applied for 3 internships, Reebok Marketing, the Celtics, and the Red Sox. Got accepted to the Celtics first, and told them I wanted to wait a couple weeks because I also had some irons in the fire at the Red Sox.
Okay, so
the Celtics down.
Just to put this in perspective, we're talking, this is 1990, right?
Correct.
And Larry Bird is still on the team.
Yeah, I guess he was, right?
Yeah, he retired in 92 and went to Indiana. But so, okay, just so for those that aren't Boston sports fans, the Celtics, world champions, lead now that Lakers tied their number of championships, whatever, we won't talk about that. But 1981, 1984, 1986, world champion, NBA champion, Celtics looking to get another world champion. Reggie Lewis, of course, on the team 1990 with Larry Bird. It looks like things are going to happen. Meanwhile, the Red Sox, are you kidding me? You know, we were at UMass when the whole tragedy of Game 6 against the New York Mets occurred. And of course, you were living down when the riots broke out in that dorm and made national news. But anyway, what the heck are you thinking not taking the Celtics? That's what I want to know. It's like, okay, do I go with
it's tough because I went
down or the exciting champions?
Yeah, I actually went to my sport management head of the department, Dr. Glenn Wong. And I'm like, hey, I got offered 2 internships, one for the Celtics and one for the Red Sox, and I'm kind of torn. What should I do? And he was, why, you got both? And he was like amazed. And he goes, he was a big basketball fan, and he thought the Celtics were a better run organization at the time. And he chose I would go with the Celtics. But I got lucky where I was able to go to a basketball game, watch what the interns did, and figure out their roles and responsibilities. And I was one of 3 interns for the Celtics, or the only intern for the Red Sox. And me, a lifelong baseball fan, if you looked at my bedroom, when I was a little kid, it was plastered with Red Sox. To me, the choice was obvious. I'm a baseball fan, know a lot more about baseball. But the fact too that I was the only intern, thought that I might have had a better opportunity to, help shine a light on myself, if you will.
Totally makes sense now. Okay, yeah. I get it.
All right. The funny thing was,
you get the internship with the Red Sox, and of course the opportunity shines, and they say, Joe, we want to hire you. So now you're working for the Red Sox, your boyhood dream team, all that. What are you doing with the Red Sox?
So I was in PR as a PR assistant, and I didn't think I was actually going to see a baseball game that year because my internship was January to June, and they started out the season in a lockout with a labor dispute.
Oh.
And so I was like, you're kidding me. I go, how long is this going to last? My internship ends in June. Season starts in April. How long is this going to go for? Am I going to get to see a baseball game? But luckily they got through that, and I was there. And the computer science background actually helped me out. I'm probably dating the Red Sox more than I'm dating ourselves, but the Red Sox kind of just got computerized. and they, were behind the times on just simple things, creating spreadsheets and using databases and whatnot. So they were also in the process of converting their media guide over to desktop publishing. There was a project that was going to take all summer long that they were working on. So my internship ended, and they saw that I was pretty adept at computers, and they asked me to stay on and help with that project. And then, so I did. And then also during the summer, the United States Baseball Federation came calling, who Dick Berquist, who is one of the baseball coaches for UMass. He had a good relationship with Howie Davis, the AD for UMass at the time, or not the AD, the what do you call it, sports information director. He had a good relationship with the Red Sox as well, and helped get my foot in the door there too.
Nice.
So they came to Dick Brashani, my boss at the Red Sox, and said, "Hey, there's an opportunity for the junior national team. We need a publicist. Do you think Joe would be available for a month to go work the World Junior Championships?" It was down in Havana, Cuba.
So you went to Cuba?
I took a month off from the Red Sox and prepared a media guide for that team. Some of the players, probably the most famous one from that team was Sean Green, who played for the Toronto Blue Jays for a number of years. Another one was Scott Spezio, who played for the Oakland Athletics. But there were some talented players on that team. Some that never actually made the majors, I thought had some unbelievable talent. But so I went down to Cuba for, the tournament for 3 weeks, and it was pretty nuts. And I came back for the Red Sox from the playoffs, and I met people from the league office when they came in to run the playoffs that year.
Whoa. Okay.
No.
Now we're just going to fast forward a little bit to I'm going to call it the day of infamy, because of course, 2004, 86 years go by, and the Red Sox are in the World Series after being down 3-1 against the Yankees. They come from behind 3 in a row. They're going against the St. Louis Cardinals, and they sweep the Cardinals in 4 games. Can't believe it. And you've got all your friends at Fenway. Your brother's a cop. He's down in the field of security. All the other guys that were on the team with us in high school, and I'm out in California.
Yeah,
that's all I got to say. I'm like, you guys were there. You were in Fenway enjoying history, and I'm watching, and I got to tell you, we're about to win. We're like 9th inning, and it's sealing it up, and there's a knock on my door, and it's my dumbass neighbor across the street who had done something to his water main, and he needs my help shutting off his water. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now? Like right now. So I just want to tell you, that's what I was going through in the 9th inning in 2004, while you're just getting ready to pop the champagne bottle. I was shutting water mains off of my neighbor's house. I got back in time to see it, but what was that like?
That was an unreal experience. So at that time, I was in the events department at baseball. And one of the things that, we took care of the pregame ceremonies, and I was involved with transportation for all the VIPs. But one of the things that we were responsible for was the championship presentation and the MVP trophy and the World Series trophy. Here I am. I was kind of the garter of the World Series trophy. Nervous could be, like by myself, watching this on TV in a club underneath the Cardinal Stadium, freaking out, like, I can't believe, is this really going to happen? Like, am I a jinx? I'm holding the trophy, and, no one wants to see the trophy. You kind of have to be off on the, hidden, because, the superstitions around it. And here it is, the Red Sox win. And I'm like, all right, keep it professional. And meanwhile, you're inside, you're like, I can't believe this is happening. And the players out there celebrating. You had time to go in and kind of like make sure the locker room was set up with all the plastic when they popped the champagne. And here we are, me and my boss Brian, we're bringing in the trophy and the MVP trophy, and I'm just like, I can't believe this is happening. Yeah, it was crazy.
Now, I didn't bring in the point that you worked for the Red Sox for quite a while, but then you moved to basically Major League Baseball office, and now you're working for Major League Baseball when that occurred in 2004.
Correct.
So, unbelievable. That must have been like, obviously, you probably took a whole bunch of pictures of you and the trophy, little selfies here and there.
Yeah, I think at the time selfies weren't that prevalent. But yeah, we had a couple photos here and there, you know.
Oh my gosh, that must have
Yeah.
been unbelievable.
Yeah, it
Really?
was pretty cool.
Okay, so then you work for Major League Baseball. You're doing. I think I recall you doing the diamond collection, as they call it. Like you've got to authorize whatever anybody wears out on the field. They come to you, and you have to give a thumbs up or thumbs down kind of thing. That was one of your
So,
roles.
yeah, so when I actually started, it was the computers that got me my job. I actually started out in the IT department as a database analyst overseeing the play-by-play system that generates all the statistics that the
Wow.
PR directors would download every day to create all of their notes and all that. And if they had issues scoring a game, they'd call my beeper. I would call the number on the beeper, and hey, it's John Blake from the Texas Rangers. How do you score this play? And I'd help them through it or troubleshoot some issues at night that some of the other guys couldn't figure out. And I became an expert at this system. Did that for 2 years, but I really want to get back to a club level. So then I took a job in the American League office as an assistant PR. And that was a stepping stone to be like a number 2 club person. Did that for 2 or 3 years, but then I went like, wait a minute. I wasn't a great writer at the time. I've learned how to write since then, but this is a pretty good job. I'm working 9 to 5 at my weekends off. I get to go to a lot of sexy events like the All-Star Game, the World Series, the playoffs. And if I want to start a family, maybe this is a good place to be, versus going to work for a club and you're working nonstop, 10 straight days in a row through the weekends and all that stuff. So I was like, you know what, this is a pretty good trade-off. I switched to licensing, was what you mentioned. So I was manager in licensing, and my role then was I was the main contact between our 30 clubs, our uniform suppliers and equipment suppliers, and it was called the Authentic Collection at the time. Anything branded, with the uniforms or anything that was worn on field or used by the players was an Authentic Collection. It was our premium items. So I managed in those accounts and troubleshot issues and dealt with uniform changes. And one of the other things too is I came up with uniform guidelines that they never had before. I was one of the main people that came up with uniform guidelines, and go around chase players wearing Nike swishes and shut up in fear, no play on the neck.
Gotcha.
I became a known as Logo Cop. You 5-0, they would call me.
All right, and then I recall you doing something with the rookies too. Were you in charge of like orientation of some sort?
Yeah, we had a rookie career orientation program that was done in association with the Players Association. It was a joint venture program, and it was a 2-3 day seminar. Basically, each team would send 3 or 4 of their top players that they think are going to be the next superstars, and they would come in for a 3-4 day seminar, and it was a 3 days of sitting there and giving them classes on, hey, you're about to take the next step in life. You're going to come in all this money. How do you manage it? We had psychologists come in that they go in private and meet with and talk about their fears and their concerns. And we had players come in, resource players that would come in and give them their life experiences, how to deal with PR, how to deal with interviews, and just, security issues that you're going to come up with, as a player. It's just life is about to change. And, it's funny because I took a lot of life lessons from that too myself. It was really neat class. And that's something that we actually, Don Fear, who was head of Players Association at the time, we actually left baseball, I think within the same month. And he went to hockey, became the director of the Players Association for hockey. I came to hockey, and hockey had a rookie orientation program as well, but it wasn't anything like what baseball had. It was like 2 hours prior to draft that they would orientation that the Players Association would give to the things. So I think Don Fear came in and he was like, hey, baseball had a program that was a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit better. So I gave him my notes on the program to our player communications department, and they got together with Players Association, and we came up with what now is our program, which is similar to what baseball had. you know, 2-3D seminar teaching them about all sorts of different things, and especially now social media and how to behave and what to post, what not to post.
Right on.
So
Now,
great stuff.
so this is great kind of segue into the NHL. I mean, you've got the NHL logo on the door there, so we've got to spend some time talking about like up to date stuff. What was it that inspired you to change from Major League Baseball over to the NHL?
Well, so I did the licensing thing for 5 years of baseball. Then I switched to events, and the last 10 years of baseball, I was there for 20 years. I became like the event operations guru at baseball, working on all the All-Star game, which is a big one. There was so many different roles and responsibilities that I had there. And then World Baseball Classics came up, and working on those and postseason and running the winter meetings and the GM meetings. And then I was like, you know, this is pretty good, but my boss wasn't going anywhere at the time. He was the same age as me. And I was like, you know what? NHL came calling. Basically what happened is they had their third Winter Classic, the third one being at Fenway Park.
Yeah.
And they realized, you know what? We have something special here. We want to grow this, and we want to have a couple games a year. But the NHL, I guess, they needed more experienced people that were really good doing event operations. So they came a calling and kind of stole me away from baseball.
Right on.
So it was a good opportunity for me, something that really interested me. I'd grown up outside, you know, Boston, Rocky, you know, like hockey was prevalent where we grew up.
On hockey, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, I spent how many times over Lake Tahoe skating around, or in the backyard in the swamps, you know.
Exactly.
So I was always interested in hockey. I never really played it other than swamp hockey. But so I took a shot at it, and, you know, came over and never regretted it for a second.
Wow, that's great. And I love the Winter Classics. I mean, I remember that game in Fenway, but you know, we just had it here in Lake Tahoe at the Edgewood Country Club on the 18th hole, right up against the shore of Lake Tahoe. If you missed it, man, go to YouTube or something and check out the games. We had it was Saturday was the Colorado Avalanche. Who did they go against?
They went against the Las Vegas Knights.
Now the Golden Knights, Vegas Golden Knights. All right, and then we had the Bees Bruins. That was on Sunday, and they went against
Flyers.
The Flyers, Philadelphia Flyers. 2 days in Tahoe. Of course, you didn't get to see a darn thing because you got your nose in every business imaginable. I know you had like a 16-hour day on Sunday, and just trying to coordinate the teams getting there and back. I mean, the closest airport I think is Reno, so which is no shining star. But anyway, you had to do a significant amount of logistics. Do you enjoy it? Do you enjoy what you're doing?
I do. I always say that, you know, we work really hard on these events, and I like the challenge. I say if it's not a challenge, it's not any fun, because if it was easy, I would have a job. Really.
Yeah.
I mean,
we talked before the show, and you were saying you had 30 days. They came up with the idea and sent some guys out to scout it out in November. And then, you know, within 30 days, you were given word this is going to happen. So normally you're given so much more time, like the better part of a year to plan this out. And you had to do it in a matter of weeks rather than a matter of months. So, I mean, first, you did a fantastic job because it was what a success.
It was pretty memorable. I mean, the site it was nuts. It was incredible. I know when I got there, driving from Reno to Lake Tahoe, I was just amazed. I was taking my phone out, trying to video when I was driving. Yeah. The sites just blew my mind, you know?
Yeah.
And then,
beautiful country.
You know, getting there and seeing everything set up. But we have a great team. I think our team is one of the best in the business at what they do. And our production team, Band Productions, they're out of Toronto. They've been with us from the start. This is the 32nd outdoor game that we did, regular season game. So they pretty much have building the rink down to a science. Now, the difference is just where it is.
Yeah, the real challenge I see it like of your career so far has been this last year. I watched a video interview of you all talking about the bubble and the playoffs and what had to go there. So I want to talk about that because you talk about logistics and coming up with this. I had some previous guests that were with the NBA bubble, like Ed Strite with the Lakers, one of the strength coaches there, and what they had to go through with the NBA Finals championship this past year with COVID. What was it like for the NHL? Because you had a couple of different cities. I think it was it Toronto and Vancouver?
Correct. No,
Okay.
Toronto and Edmonton. Vancouver was one of the cities.
Edmonton. Okay. So where were you during this whole bubble?
So I was in Toronto. I was in charge of arena operations for the Toronto bubble. We had two separate teams, one going to Edmonton, take care of the West, and Toronto was the East. But, leading up to it, we were like, we knew something, we knew we had to get our playoffs going. We knew that, some way, shape, or form, we were going to come back and play playoff hockey to finish out our season. We were determined to do that. And so we started our events team. The first thing is we started to look around at all these D1 schools that had great programs in the remote, like North Dakota or Notre Dame, that had great facilities, but we're a remote part of the country where COVID wasn't prevalent at the time.
Gotcha.
The issues we ran into were, well, they really don't have 5-star hotels for the players, not enough hotels to house, 10 to 12 teams. And then the other issues we had is the whole broadcasting element and all of the infrastructure we have for hockey with all of our timing, our scoring, our video replay. So we would have spent a lot of money to build up that infrastructure in those arenas just to have it. So a lot of thought and process went together. Then COVID went to shit and it got worse. And then we started, well, why are we going to spend all this money building up, an infrastructure when we already have it built? So, well, let's start taking a look at what cities would make sense for us to go to that are own buildings. And so we started taking a look at around and got a whole bunch of people that knew about the buildings, that we've done events there, we've done playoffs there. Do they have an extra sheet of ice for practice? It would have been helpful. Or how close is their practice facility? What are the hotels like? Are the hotels willing to shut down exclusively for us? Luckily, there wasn't much business. No one's traveling. So I think the hotels looked at it as a booming business. Well, a lot of hotels had to kind of rehire staff and reopen because they were shut down.
Right.
It was crazy.
Took over the entire hotel with the teams and the staffing.
Correct. Yeah. In Toronto, we took over 2 hotels. One that was about 2 blocks from the arena.
Yeah. How cool is Toronto, by the way, that the arena is right there. Like the CN Tower is not far away. Like everything's within, I won't say walking distance because it's a big city, but at the same time, you're like right there and you've got hotels and conference centers right at the rink too. So I couldn't imagine a better place.
Yeah, it worked out really well. The good thing is we had a working model in a way because we did our World Cup of Hockey there a few years ago. And so we were pretty familiar with practice facilities, the hotels in the market. When the hotels were so close, we actually were still needing to transport by buses. We couldn't figure out, it took us a couple days until we got there, a walking path from that hotel. Being so close and then you have to bus just made no sense, right? The amount of people that we had to be there would have had a bus leave every 5 minutes to get all the staff and everyone there to the players to and from the arena. So there was, if you walked across the street, there was stairs that went down towards the train tracks.
Yep.
It was like underground walkway, and we were able to take that over. Then once we got to a public right of way, we split that with bike fence, and we had our own corridor where the public was on one side, and then at one point it went doors downstairs to a loading dock, and we walked underground through a couple different loading docks to get to the arena, and that was our private walkway from that one hotel to the arena. So we had to spend some money with, we had to spend some money with security and fencing and a little bit of a road closure there. And then the other hotel was Hotel X, which was further away, but it was also like a quarter mile from BMO Field where they have the soccer stadium. Mm-hmm. And we actually had the Centennial Classic at BMO Field as well. Hotel X was a little nicer, swankier, had more windows, had a pool. And we put our, we separated everyone out by, by tiers, if you will, or the teams with the highest record got to stay at Hotel X, the nicer hotel. But the good thing we were able to do there too is we again took the road between Hotel X and BMO Field out of commission, shut it down, put up fencing with scrim and security along the way, and players could walk from that hotel, walk a quarter mile to go to BMO Field and enjoy outdoor space. Wow. Kick the soccer ball around, hang out in the sun, play spike ball, and then enjoy a couple of restaurants or barbecues that we had set up over there too. So it was a really good experience in that way. We were confined to a bubble, but you weren't limited to direct walls of the hotel or the arena.
That Toronto was obviously Toronto. Most Canadian cities are huge hockey towns, right? And Toronto's no exception. Granted, they've got baseball and basketball and Canadian League football, but when it comes to hockey, you've got some diehard fans. What was it like with the fan interaction with these corridors? Did you have any trouble with that?
Well, initially we were worried about that for sure, because I don't know how familiar you are with the arena, but they have what's called Raptors Alley, if you will, and they broadcast outside the arena.
Yeah,
and the championship in hockey or basketball out there, the fans just swarm to the arena. And I'm like, oh my God, we have 12 NHL teams in the arena, and so security was a concern. Like we don't know what's going to show up. We're in the news saying everything's closed. It's a bubble. You can't get near the players. There's no autographs. And surprisingly, no one came down, which was great. I mean, the way we'd set it up, they weren't going to see the players anyway. We had one or two people trying to jump fences, on occasion, but it ended up being nothing. So it was really surprising.
As the playoffs started the teams got eliminated and we got really quite close to the Stanley Cup, that meant that the locations were starting to condense too. Leading up to the Stanley Cup, what was that like?
So, as we went through the learning process here, getting things set up, again, doing it in 30 days to 40 days, one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. All the meetings and site surveys they would have spread out through a year were daily, nonstop, 7 a.m. to 8, 9 o'clock at night, nonstop Zoom calls. Meanwhile, your email's building up. Everyone's wanting answers and questions. Those get done. You grab a quick bite to eat, and you're back on emails to God knows what time of the hour you're trying to get things done. And then when we got there, we had to fly in. We had to fly in private planes. We couldn't take commercial flights where the restrictions were crossing the border. Wow. So the Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley was nonstop talking to the Canadian provinces and trying to figure out how we can get this done. And they had to understand our health protocols and what we were doing. And we had to get tested 3 times and 3 negative tests before we traveled within, a period of a week, and then flew in privately and went right to our hotel. We couldn't stop anywhere. You couldn't stop at a grocery store or liquor store or anything. You had to go right to the hotel, and they approved those guidelines. And then we were there meeting, setting things up, but you're executing while you're still planning. So as things were setting up, we had to readjust a few things and still keep the ball rolling. And then the teams flew in, and once everyone kind of got the lay of the land after 2 weeks, it was kind of like Groundhog Day. Everyone knew the process, the procedures, and everything was flowing along. And there was really not a ton to do but watch hockey. There was some basic troubleshooting things on a daily basis, but it did get easier once things were set up because it was on autopilot, if you will. Right? There was no fans, very limited media. Media were kept on a different level of the arena that we couldn't interact with because they were kind of outside the zone. They weren't getting tested, and we couldn't come in contact with them.
Okay. So the brilliant success, another one, right? You just talk about things just flying at you, and you're going to have to kind of just dance with it, and you've got a very limited dance card to do that with in terms of time frame. So that's remarkable. What about this coming year? I was kicking back with a buddy of mine who played for the Sharks and a bunch of other teams, over 1,000 games, in the NHL, Scott Hannon, and now he's doing some commentating for some Sharks games now. But we're talking about how it was kind of nice to have these 2-3 game series of teams going, just like baseball has done.
Right.
For years, the Sox would go down and play the Rangers in Texas for a 2 or 3 game series. And then while they're there, they're going to go over to this town and that town and so on. But you're not bouncing the players all over the country or all over the West or East. And what's that going to look like this year? Are you? I know you're not part of that. You're more special events, but any word coming down the pipe as to what we might expect this coming NHL series?
Well, you bring up a good point. Like, honestly, I think we're still waiting to see how things develop, see how the vaccine gets rolled out. As you know, certain states are starting to open up their arenas to fans, not all of them.
Yeah.
I know our owners and the players want to see fans back in the buildings, and we do too. I mean, gosh, everyone's missing that aspect of the game. It brings excitement, and we still don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, we had great success with the bubble last year, but I know that nobody really wants that. Right. The players certainly don't want to be away from their families that long. We want to see fans in the buildings, get that excitement of the home team rivalries going. But I think the goal probably would be to do a Stanley Cup final the way we had done it in each team's home arena. But who knows, with the way COVID are and restricted travel, like we usually go 2-2, 1-1-1, where baseball goes 3-4-3. Who knows? Maybe there's a hybrid and we go 3-4-3 to limit the travel and exposure.
Yeah.
Or 2-3-2. Sorry, not 3-4-3.
I got you. Yeah.
But,
I'm bad at math.
So we don't know. It's every month things change, right? And we listen to our owners and want them to have their arenas open with the fans again.
Now, do you have another Winter Classic coming up? I can't imagine.
No, this year we don't. The Winter Classic and our stadium series were canceled. The All-Star game was canceled. We're not going to do those events without fans, but that's why we came up with the idea of let's do a TV event for Lake Tahoe. It was made for TV, no spectators whatsoever. Without a stadium, we had 2 portable rinks. We can take them anywhere. So who knows? That could open up things for future. We had great success, great TV ratings coming out of that.
How did the players like playing without a crowd, but on the shores of Lake Tahoe?
When they got there, they were amazed. They were a lot of people like, this reminds me of, Mystery Alaska. And, it's just, that's what people, like I said, growing up playing in Lake Quannapowitt or swamp hockey, you're playing, that's what everyone remembers about playing hockey when you were a kid is you lived in a colder climate, you played outdoors. That's what you remembered. That's what the Winter Classic and Stadium Series really does, is it brings back those elements of playing outdoors and having a snowfall, or being sunny out, which caused us lots of problems.
Yeah, I think you had a little ice melt like the day before or so, because it was warming up in Tahoe.
We had a 9-hour delay because of the sun on Saturday. You probably got sunburnt when you were skiing in the mountains. And
dude, it was such a great day. Honestly, we had, because it had dumped about 1.5 feet on that Friday, right? I don't know when did you come in? You probably were
in Super Bowl Sunday, the 7th. And just a week prior got 3 to 4 feet of snow.
Yeah, that was an epic day.
Away how much there wasn't much snow left when I got there. The sun is so strong out there, it just melted. But up in the mountains, it stays.
Oh yeah, we can drive to winter here. That's the best thing about where we live. Like I'm living on the beach in Santa Cruz, but in 3.5 hours, I could be on the snow. So, I don't want to boast, but that's the nice thing about here. We can drive into a different season. And I tell you, that Saturday you were setting up, I was up snowboarding with the kids and it was just all time powder. So I can only imagine, with the sun beating down, we only had like sweatshirts on and we were up in the snow.
Yeah.
So
when I woke up that morning, knowing the forecast, we get daily forecasts sent to us that are specialized for the region because we've had so many different issues with the outdoor ice because weather plays a huge factor in that. Rain and the sun being the most problematic. Knowing how strong the sun was and looking at full sunny skies for Saturday and Sunday. Like Saturday was supposed to be overcast. I woke up in the morning. I said, if I'm a betting man, this game is going to get moved to the afternoon. But we started it at noon on time. But then we realizing how quickly the ice was deteriorating with the players skating and the sun really attracting to the lines and logos to the darker spots and just melting it like crazy, it became unsafe for the players. And the ice was going to blow out, and it just was crappy ice. And our ice crew, unfortunately, there's no way we could play. We're going to need 5 hours to rebuild this once the sun's off it. So what I thought would have been like a 4:30, 5 o'clock restart turning into a 9 p.m. restart, and reminding my days of baseball and a rain delay. But this time the players just don't go to the clubhouse or the locker room and sit there and play cards. They left. They went back to the hotel. They got another meal, got a nap, came back and played the second and third period at night.
Wow.
And then the next day we knew, because the sun was so strong, that we moved that game from a noon game to a 4:30 start once the sun was off. And they got to play at sundown, which was pretty cool.
It was really cool. It was honestly, it was great to see it all kind of unfold, and to get that little inside scoop to know that a good friend was a big part of that. So let's just let's imagine now. Well, right now you must be coming up for a little air. I can't imagine there's a lot of special events you're planning on right now. Is this your downtime? Well, typically it's probably not your downtime, but right now, is it?
Right now, yeah, typically would be looking at this time of year, all right, coming off of our outdoor game season. It would be a little bit of downtime, refresh the batteries, but then start thinking ahead to playoffs.
Yeah.
And typically, we usually have kind of two teams for playoffs. I usually take care of Stanley Cup Final East, and there's another team that takes care of Stanley Cup Final West. And would start traveling around during the first part of the playoffs of teams that are in the hunt, but we haven't done an event in that building for a long time. And I'll start to go to some games and start to meet with those operations peoples in those markets, and get a feel for the arena. And like, if we were to bring a Stanley Cup final in here, what could we do to the space around here? What areas can we use? Can we transform? Because there's a lot of different people and departments that come in that need working space in the arena.
Gotcha. So we have a condensed NHL season this year, and playoffs begin. What month are we going to?
Playoffs pretty much begin April, May. Then they're going to go to, June, and hopefully finish up in July.
Okay, so it's not pushed out too much then, because
it's not pushed out too much, right?
Okay, so Stanley Cup usually happens in June, and playoffs do begin right around April anyway, right?
Right, correct.
So
yeah, I've been taking a hard look at the schedule. Like, again, it was a little bit of downtime, but that's the next thing is I need to start taking a look at, like, where we are, where we're going. And then you also have the expansion draft this year with Seattle Kraken. So that'll happen after the season.
What's going on with that?
Well, new expansion team, Seattle Kraken's entering the league. And so they'll have a draft where, each team has to protect players, and Seattle Kraken gets to go pick and choose a player from each team.
Get out of here. They get to just pluck?
Sure.
What's up with that?
Yeah. It's pretty exciting, But, there's teams are allowed to protect X amount of players. I don't know the rules.
Interesting. All right. When's that going to take place?
Probably after our season in July. Probably the end of July.
I gotta say, I like the name Kraken, the sea monster in Seattle and all that. But and don't hate me, brother, but I've switched allegiances. I love the Bees, I love the Bruins, but for 30 years of being here, and I'm a Sharks diehard through and through. I love the Sharks, and there's nothing like a game in the Shark Tank, especially now that the Garden has been leveled and you got TD Bank North, which I'm sure is fine, but there's nothing like going to the Shark Tank and watching a game. And I can't wait for the Kraken to come down and try and battle the Sharks, because that would be it
would be a good little rivalry there, a little northern rivalry.
That's it, exactly. Yeah. So, but I imagine, you live in Jersey and the Red Devils are gone. So are you still a Bruins fan?
All right, well, born and raised, brother. Yeah, come on. I'm dying hard,
All right,
so look, my allegiance working for the league, right? I root for all 30 teams. Right?
Of course you do. Yeah.
But yeah, you have a diehard team here and there, right? You
Right
know,
on.
so I always still root Boston Red Sox, Patriots,
Hell yeah.
Celtics, Bruins. You
That'll
know,
never
we were
change.
born with and raised with. And funny thing is, my son Colin, who's all he's ever known is Jersey, but those are all his teams because he follows what dad follows.
Well, same with my kids. They're born and bred under the sign of the Patriots, and that's how it'll be. When it comes to baseball, they're kind of up in the air. But
the funny thing is, when we were growing up, the Patriots weren't that great. I think they got to the Super Bowl in '85 or something like that.
Yeah, against Jim McMahon.
Or '86, right?
He got destroyed. January '86.
They're horrible, and all he's known is championships between the Patriots, the Red Sox, the Celtics.
Yeah, you know? It's good to be the king now. I tell you that. 20 years of victory, and now we've got Patriots West, or NFC Patriots, as I like to call the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm totally cool with that. Joe, dude, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you coming on, and I'm glad that it was timed where your downtime is measured probably in hours from the sounds of it. And you might get a couple days, but playoffs kick up next month, because this is airing in mid-March. Yeah, I think it's basically, you're got maybe another day or two to enjoy kicking back before you start things going. And but I gotta say, you're an energy junkie, and I know you love the buzz. So you're probably feeling right at home when a deadline is coming down to the wire.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I love being busy. It's what drives us, you know, when you're in the event planning business, and in the harder you work, the more exciting things can be. I don't know, just my thing is like problem shooting stuff, you know, troubleshooting things that are more of a challenge, you know, the different experience you have and how you're going to get to that resolution and see all sides that come to it. It's kind of rewarding, right? When you can come up with a way to solve a problem that other people couldn't see.
All right. Now I can edit out this next question, but I got to throw it out there. You're vice president of special events for NHL, but there's room for upward mobility because a vice president has a president above. What do you say to that? Are you looking for upward mobility, or you wanted to try your hand at NBA, or are you just happy just living the love and the life that you're doing right now?
I'm happy where I'm at, brother. I don't have any aspirations of being a commissioner. Don't have the experience of that either. But to be able to be where I'm at in my career, vice president of one of the 4 leading pro sports, to me has been a great accomplishment of my career. And I'm tickled to death to be where I'm at and have the people that work and support me, you know, behind me. So,
well, you should be very proud. You've done a great job all through the years. Unbelievable, man.
2 kids from Reading. Look at the success, huh?
Can you? Yeah. I tell people I'm the greatest surfer to ever come from Reading, Massachusetts.